I never trusted that coffee shop. You know the kind, slick lighting, overpriced muffins, and baristas who look like they stepped off a runway, but act like they're allergic to smiling. But it was her favorite. Said the espresso had soul. I always thought it just tasted like regret, but hey, I'm a drip guy. Simpler days, simpler coffee. That's where I first saw her. Eliza, standing in line, wearing a coat too expensive for the weather and boots that clicked like punctuation marks every time she shifted her weight. She turned, locked eyes with me, and said, "If you cut ahead of me, I swear I'll key your car." I married her 2 years later. Fast forward 7 years and a mortgage, and you'd think we had it figured out. House with a porch swing, date nights once a month, and matching bathrobes embroidered with LNE. Even had a dog named Baxter who barked at his own shadow. Looked like life was cozy and secure, like we were the kind of couple people pointed at and said, "Now that's solid." Yeah, people say a lot of things. It started unraveling slowly, like a sweater thread you didn't notice until the whole sleeve's off. First, it was the laughs, hers, not mine. The kind you give at someone else's jokes when they're just a little too funny for comfort. Then the late meetings, the new perfume, and the gym membership she didn't need, but suddenly couldn't live without. Still, I didn't flinch. Call it love. Call it denial. Call it stupid. Take your pick. Then one day she suggested we go on a weekend getaway. Just the two of us, no distractions. Reconnect, she called it. I packed a suitcase. She packed a grenade. But more on that later. We booked a cabin up in the mountains. One of those glossy brochure types with a hot tub, a fireplace, and a promise of romance that smells suspiciously like pine-scented air freshener. Eliza was radiant the whole drive. Windows down, music up, hand on my thigh like we were college sweethearts again. I should have known then. Nostalgia's just another word for bait. "You're quiet," she said, about halfway through the drive. "Just soaking it in," I replied, gripping the steering wheel tighter than necessary. She smiled and went back to humming whatever indie ballad was playing on the radio. I noticed she'd turned off her phone. That was new. Eliza never went 10 minutes without it unless she was up to something. But again, I told myself, she's trying. This is good. We're healing. The first night was perfect, almost aggressively so. Steak on the grill, bottle of wine, her wrapped in that oversized sweater that made her look like a Pinterest board come to life. We played a card game we hadn't touched in years, laughed about old inside jokes, and fell asleep in front of the fire. I woke up around 3 a.m. to find her missing from the bed. I checked the bathroom. Empty. Peeked outside. Her phone was sitting on the kitchen counter, screen glowing with a message that made my stomach drop. "Can't wait till he's out of the picture. Miss your hands on me. Jay?" I stood there, staring at the screen like it was a foreign language I suddenly understood. Every laugh. Every late meeting. Every work thing. And just like that, the cabin didn't feel warm anymore that I didn't wake her up that night. No dramatic confrontation. No shouting. Just silence. Heavy, deliberate silence. The kind that tightens around your neck like a noose made of trust. By morning, I was calm. Or at least I looked calm. She made coffee, barefoot, humming, like her whole world wasn't balancing on the edge of a knife. She kissed my cheek. "Sleep well." Like a rock. I lied, stirring sugar into betrayal. We packed up that afternoon. She drove. I stared out the window at trees that looked like they were judging me. When we got home, I did what any sane, rational man would do. I played dumb. For 2 weeks, I was the picture of marital bliss. I made dinner, did laundry, even booked her a massage to unwind. Meanwhile, I did some research, checked our phone records, email accounts, her calendar, and like any true story of modern heartbreak, it all pointed back to a guy with a name that sounds like it belongs on a cologne bottle. Jake. Jake, her coworker. Jake, that he's married too. I swear it's just business dinners, Jake. Turns out, Jake's wife left him 6 months ago. I guess Eliza was helping him fill the emotional void. And probably the physical one, too. But let's not dwell on details. The final confirmation came by accident. She left her laptop open on the kitchen counter. A photo, taken in what used to be our cabin. Eliza, half wrapped in a blanket. Jake's arm around her. Both of them grinning like teenagers who just got away with sneaking out. I didn't need to zoom in. I recognized the mug she was holding. It was mine. And just like that, the denial died. She wasn't slipping away. She had already left. You ever look at your own reflection and not recognize the guy staring back? That was me the morning after I found the photo. I stood in the bathroom, toothbrush in hand, foam halfway to my chin, and caught myself in the mirror. Not just looking, studying. Like I was trying to see what she didn't see anymore. Or maybe what she never saw in the first place. Crow's feet a little deeper. Hair starting to thin in ways I pretended not to notice. But the eyes, those were still sharp. Still mine. And in that moment, I promised myself something. If this was the game she wanted to play, I'd stop being the bench warmer. Eliza had no idea I knew. That was the fun part. She kissed me goodbye that morning, phone in one hand, travel mug in the other, all smiles and soft lies. You gonna be late tonight? I asked. Yeah, she replied, just like she'd rehearsed. End of quarter stuff. You know how it is. Oh, I know exactly how it is. She didn't even blink. That was the thing about good liars. They believe their own stories. I spent the rest of the day building my case. I wasn't just going to confront her. I was going to dismantle her. Started by printing the photo. 2 copies. One for me. One for a little surprise. I also drafted an email to Jake's boss. Nothing slanderous, just informative. Attached the photo. Subject line, conduct unbecoming of management? The world's funny. We build these professional images, polish them like trophies, and forget how fragile they are. One email can crack it wide open. Just one. Next, I called a lawyer. Thinking about filing? He asked. Not yet, I said. Right now, I'm just gathering wood for the fire. He chuckled. Understood. Let me know when you're ready to light the match. I spent that evening rearranging the house. Not the furniture, just the truths. I found the little hiding places she thought were clever. That burner phone in her gym bag? Cute. The second set of keys under the sink? Sloppy. I logged into our shared photo cloud and pulled every screenshot, selfie, and time-stamped rendezvous she'd carelessly let slip through. By the time she walked through the door at 9:12 p.m., claiming a meeting ran late, I had a dossier that would make the CIA jealous. She looked tired. Hair tousled, makeup smudged just enough to say I was busy, without inviting suspicion. Long day? I asked. She sighed. You have no idea. Oh, sweetheart. I have all the ideas now. I didn't say anything else. Just smiled, handed her a glass of wine, and told her to relax. Meanwhile, my printer hummed in the next room, spitting out receipts she hadn't counted on. But I wasn't going to drop the bomb just yet. No, I had a better plan. The next day, I called her boss. Pitched a surprise lunch, told him it was for Eliza's birthday. He agreed, even thanked me for the idea. Then I called Jake's office. Same pitch. 2 birds. 1 stone. One very awkward sushi restaurant. I picked the table near the window, ordered a bottle of wine, and waited. Eliza arrived first, looking confused but charmed. Jake came 5 minutes later, his face twisting the moment he saw me sitting there with her. His shoulders stiffened. He adjusted his tie. His eyes said everything his mouth wouldn't. Surprise, I said, raising my glass. Thought I'd treat the people who've been spending so much time together. Eliza blinked. Logan, what is this? Jake cleared his throat. Should we? No, I interrupted. We should eat. You two must be starving after all those meetings. Eliza opened her mouth, closed it, then opened it again. Logan, I don't know what you think. I said calmly, you forgot how good I am at reading numbers. And patterns. Like when your workout schedule suddenly matched Jake's business trips. Or how your car mileage jumped every Thursday. I slid a small envelope across the table. Jake hesitated, then opened it. His face turned the color of spoiled milk. That one's yours, I said. Eliza's comes with a bonus. She didn't move. Just sat there, eyes wide, breathing shallow. Relax, I said with a smile. I'm not here to make a scene. I'm just here to tell you something important. Jake looked like he wanted to disappear into his sushi roll. Eliza, I said, you didn't just cheat. You rehearsed it. Perfected it. Played me like a background character in your drama. And for a while, I let you. But here's the twist. This isn't your story anymore. I stood up, buttoned my coat, and left them there. Frozen. Exposed. And completely silent. As I walked to my car, I didn't feel rage. I felt something better. Control. That was just the first step. You want revenge? Sometimes, it starts with a reservation for 3. The drive home felt different. Not victorious. Not angry. Just precise. Like I was finally back in control of my own story. No more gut punches. No more blindside tackles. That lunch wasn't closure, it was an opening salvo. Eliza didn't come home that night. Guess sushi with Jake turned into a full-course crisis. I didn't wait up. I had things to do. You see, revenge isn't about rage. Rage burns hot and fast, and then it fizzles out. What I wanted was colder, slower, more surgical. You don't heal betrayal with fire. You extract it like a tumor, carefully, methodically. And maybe, if you're lucky, you leave a scar they'll feel every time the weather changes. I started with the finances. Marriage had made us a team. Legally, but emotionally, she had been playing solo for a while. So I unteamed everything. Opened my own accounts. Rerouted my paycheck. Froze the joint cards. Transferred the utilities out of my name. And yes, I pulled the equity from the house. Quietly. Legally. Efficiently. I left her just enough rope to keep pretending everything was fine. Let her swipe that card a few more times before the declines started rolling in. Eliza always did have expensive taste. Boutiques, brunches, overpriced yoga pants. She was about to find out what minimalism really felt like. Then came the email. To her friends. Her family. The ones who always said we were relationship goals. Subject line, a quick update. Inside, a polite, clinical message explaining that Eliza and I were separating amicably after she began a relationship with a mutual acquaintance during our marriage. No drama. No adjectives. Just the facts. She couldn't call it slander. Every line was true. I sent it from our shared address. Neutral. Cold. Devastating. You'd be amazed how quickly people go silent when the skeletons start dancing out of the closet. Her best friend forwarded me the response thread. Let's just say, Eliza's approval rating plummeted faster than her favorite crypto coin. But the real beauty? She didn't even know it had happened yet. The next morning, she walked in like she was coming home from yoga. Hair tied up. No suitcase. No apology. Just a casual, hey, I didn't look up from my coffee. Sleep well. She blinked, caught off guard. Yeah. I stayed at Karis. Cool, I said. Sip. Silence. She hovered by the counter like she was waiting for a confrontation. I didn't give her one. That's what really scared her. You see, cheaters expect drama. They prepare for tears, shouts, accusations. That's how they reclaim the spotlight, by flipping the script and becoming the victim of your reaction. But when you give them nothing, they flail. By the third day, she cracked. We should talk, she said one evening, arms crossed, voice softer than usual. I turned the volume down on the TV. About what? You know what? Oh, I said, nodding. Jake. She flinched. Like the name stung. It wasn't supposed to. I didn't mean to hurt you. I looked her dead in the eye. But you did. Repeatedly. With planning. She opened her mouth. Closed it. Tried again. I think we rushed into this marriage, she said, as if that was a defense. I didn't really get to figure out who I was. I chuckled. You figured it out with a coworker's hands down your blouse. Her face crumpled, but I didn't flinch. Eliza, I said, we're not talking because I want closure. We're talking because I want you to know I'm not angry. You're not? She whispered. No, I said, standing up. I'm calculating. She took a step back. Everything's being separated. The bank, the house, the lawyer. I'm not out for blood, Eliza. I'm out for silence. I don't want your tears. I want your signature. She stared at me, stunned. And that's when I pulled out the folder. Neatly prepared. Divorce papers. Clean, fair, signed on my end. She looked down at them like they were a death certificate. You did all this behind my back. I raised an eyebrow. Little rich coming from you. She didn't sign right away. Of course not. She needed a few days. A few conversations with Jake. Maybe even a pep talk from a wine-sipping girlfriend who still believed cheating was self-discovery. But by Friday, I had her signature. And by Monday, I had the house. I left her the guest room for 2 weeks. Long enough to find a place. She asked me once, with wide, damp eyes, if we could maybe try counseling. I told her the truth. We could have, Eliza. Before the lies. Before the hotel receipts. Before I found out you were comparing me to someone who wears Bluetooth earpieces unironically. She laughed. I think she expected me to laugh, too. I didn't. You don't get to ask for a clean slate after writing over me in ink, I said. When she finally left, it was quiet. No door slam. No teary confession. Just the echo of a woman who thought she was clever until the game flipped on her. I didn't throw a party the day she moved out. No streamers. No victory dance. Just silence. The kind that settles over a house like dust when something finally ends. She left behind little things. A slipper under the bed. half a bottle of lavender shampoo. One of her scarves draped over the stair railing like it was saying goodbye for her. I didn't toss them. I boxed them up, labeled it miscellaneous, and had it delivered to her new apartment. She signed for it. I know because I tracked it. Revenge doesn't sleep, it organizes. With Eliza gone, I expected peace. But peace has a funny way of showing up late and smelling faintly like scorched earth. It started with Jake. Apparently, his company had a very firm code of conduct. And when that little email of mine, strictly professional, highly factual, landed in HR's inbox, it raised a few eyebrows. Pair that with an anonymous tip to the ethics committee and some social media screenshots from concerned colleagues, and suddenly Jake found himself not just out of the office, but out of a job. Word travels fast when it's dressed in scandal. Eliza called me 3 days later. Not to yell, not to plead, but to accuse. What did you do? Her voice cracked through the phone, half fury, half fear. You'll have to be more specific, I said. I do a lot of things. You cost him his job, Logan. I paused, sipping my coffee like I had all the time in the world. Actually, I just cost him his secrecy. His choices did the rest. You're a monster, she hissed. No, I said, calmly. I'm just the accountant. And I hung up. Now, you might be thinking this was all a bit much. But let me remind you, she brought the matchbook. I just lit the last one. The next few weeks were quiet again, but this time, colder. People began to pick sides, as they do. Some of our mutual friends, especially the ones who'd always raised an eyebrow at her networking, reached out to me. One even bought me a drink and said, I always knew she was playing a different game. Just didn't know how long the board had been set. Others? Vanished. Blocked me. Uninvited me from barbecues. Which was fine. If your friendship depends on ignoring betrayal, we probably weren't friends to begin with. Then came the last piece of fallout I wasn't expecting. Her mother called me. We'd never been close. Margaret always saw me as the safe choice, code for boring. But now her voice was trembling. She's not well, she said. She's depressed. Lost weight. Barely sleeping. I nodded, though she couldn't see me. Actions have consequences, Margaret. You of all people should know that. She made a mistake, she whispered. No, I corrected. She made a plan. And I let her think it was working. That's not a mistake. That's strategy. There was a long silence. I just thought you should know, she said finally. I do, I replied. And I'll sleep just fine knowing I left the door wide open. She just chose to walk out of it. After I hung up, I sat in that same recliner she once curled up in on Sunday mornings. I looked around at a home that was finally mine in more ways than one. And I didn't feel guilt. I felt clarity. This wasn't just a revenge story anymore. It was a rebirth. But make no mistake, there was still one chapter left. She had taken years from me. Moments I couldn't get back. The weight of her betrayal didn't just scar, it shaped me. So I owed it to myself to shape the ending. You see, when people think revenge, they think chaos. But mine? Mine was still unfolding. And the final piece? That involved Jake's ex-wife. She and I had never met, not properly. Just a few nods at company functions. But I had a feeling she'd appreciate a man who believed in documentation, receipts, and poetic symmetry. So I gave her a call. Jake's ex-wife answered on the third ring. Hello. Her voice was cautious, clipped. Like she was halfway expecting a telemarketer or a collection agency. Hi, I said. You don't know me, but you probably know the man your ex-wife cheated with. There was a pause. Then, in a voice dipped in ice, she said, Jake. That's the one. Another pause. Longer this time. Who is this? My name's Logan, I replied. Eliza's ex-husband. And I thought maybe we could compare notes. That got her attention. 30 minutes later, we were sitting across from each other at a quiet cafe downtown. No drama, no grand theatrics. Just two people who got hit by the same car and decided to build a crosswalk. Her name was Morgan. Sharp suit, sharper eyes. She wasn't the sobbing type, she was the burn-it-all-down and sort the ashes later type. I liked her immediately. I always suspected there was someone else, she said, sipping her tea with calculated calm. He changed. Got cockier. Started dressing better and listening to podcasts about alpha mindsets. I chuckled. Yeah, Eliza told me he was deeply intellectual. Morgan rolled her eyes. He thought The Art of War was a dating guide. We traded war stories like survivors at a reunion. She had photos. I had timestamps. She had old texts. I had forwarded emails. By the end of our coffee, we had enough material to put together a presentation titled, Why Jake and Eliza deserve each other and a Netflix drama. Why are you doing this? She asked at one point. I leaned back in my chair. Because closure's too gentle. I want consequences. She smirked. So do I. We didn't plan anything illegal, immoral, or even technically confrontational. Just a little illumination. See, Morgan was friends with one of Jake's former clients, a woman now suing the company for breach of contract after Jake ghosted her project to chase Eliza across state lines. She had receipts. And thanks to a well-placed letter from Morgan, that lawsuit was about to gain momentum. Me? I focused on Eliza. I sent her a letter. Not an email. Not a text. A letter. Typed. On paper. Classy. Formal. Inside was a single sentence. Some truths echo louder when repeated by strangers. Attached were screenshots of Morgan's message threads with Jake, showing the same recycled compliments he gave Eliza. Word for word. Eliza had once told me, what I have with Jake is different. Well, now she knew it wasn't. Jake was a broken record with good cologne. She didn't respond. Not immediately. But I knew she would. 3 days later, she showed up at my door. Hair tied back. No makeup. Dressed down in a way that said, look how humble I am now. I just want to talk, she said. I nodded and stepped aside. Let her walk in like it wasn't a house she tried to escape from not long ago. She sat on the couch. Didn't touch anything. Just looked at me like someone waiting to be judged. I know what you did, she said softly. Which part? I asked. The facts? The fallout? Or the formatting? She blinked. You sent my emails to his ex-wife. Correct. You ruined both our reputations. No, I corrected. You ruined your own. I just removed the curtain. There was a long silence. I thought you'd be more angry, she said, almost confused. I said, settling into the recliner. But then I realized anger's what you were expecting. It's easy to dismiss. But being methodical? That's unsettling. She looked down at her hands. Jake, he's not who I thought he was. Neither were you. Another pause. This one heavier. I made a mistake, she whispered. I leaned forward slightly, just enough to make my voice clear. No, Eliza. You made a series of calculated choices. Mistakes are when you drop a glass. This was a demolition. Her eyes started to shimmer, but I wasn't biting. I'm not here for your tears, I said. I'm here to let you know I'm done. The house is mine. The future is mine. And the dignity? You left that with Jake. She stood up slowly. No grand speech. No request for forgiveness. Just a quiet, broken goodbye. And that was the last time I saw her. As the door closed behind her, I didn't feel triumph. I felt weightless. This wasn't revenge anymore. It was renewal. Morgan and I kept in touch. Not romantically. Just two people who knew the value of keeping your allies close and your receipts closer. Jake, last I heard, moved to a different city. Started working for a startup that tanked within 3 months. Eliza? She faded into the background. Unfollowed by many. Forgotten by more. As for me, I took up hiking. Strange hobby for a man who used to spend his weekends adjusting spreadsheets. But the mountains had a kind of honesty people didn't. They don't cheat. They don't lie. They don't whisper, you're not enough, while texting someone else. They just stand. Silent. Steady. Like I do now. After Eliza walked out for the last time, my life slowed down in the best possible way. No more waiting up for someone who'd already left emotionally. No more guessing games. Just peace. The kind you don't appreciate until silence stops meaning danger. I redecorated the house. Nothing drastic, just enough to make it mine again. Her abstract wall art? Gone. The wine rack she never used but loved showing off? Donated. I filled the space with things that actually brought me joy, like a bookshelf I built myself, or the photos I took on long solo hikes. Somewhere along the way, I stopped thinking about her every day. That was the real sign of healing, not a dramatic moment, but the absence of obsession. People often ask how you get over someone who betrayed you. Here's the secret. You don't get over it. You get through it. And once you're through, you don't look back. One afternoon, I ran into Morgan again. At a bookstore, of all places. We both reached for the same novel, some post-apocalyptic thriller. She laughed, I smirked, and we ended up grabbing coffee next door. We talked about everything but the past. I started journaling, she said. Not out of sadness. Just clarity. I built a bench, I replied. We laughed. Not because it was particularly funny, but because it felt good to laugh again without bitterness attached. We didn't become a couple. We became something rarer, people who respected each other's survival. She told me Jake had tried to call her a few times. He's nostalgic now, she said, rolling her eyes. Amazing how regret shows up when options run out. I nodded. Eliza hasn't tried calling me again. She won't, Morgan said. You didn't leave her with anything she could manipulate. That felt true. She left with a packed bag and an empty script. No sequel. No spin-off. Just credits rolling. A year later, I stood on a trail overlooking a cliff. Not for any dramatic reason. It was just a good view. I pulled out a small, weathered notebook I'd been keeping. Notes to myself. Quotes. Observations. And one page I'd saved for this very moment. At the top, I'd written, "What did I learn?" And underneath, I wrote, "Love without accountability is just sentiment. Cheating says more about the cheater than the cheated. Revenge isn't cruel if it's honest. You don't owe closure to someone who handed you chaos. The version of me that let it slide? He's retired." I tore out the page, folded it, and placed it under a stone at the edge of the overlook. Not as a goodbye, as a marker. Proof that I'd been here, that I'd gone through it, and that I came out on the other side, not just alive, but better. Not bitter, not broken, just back. The man who was cheated on is gone. The man who built something stronger? He's just getting started.